this week's installment of Today and Tomorrow in Scottsdale with Don Henninger. I'm Don. With me is my podcast partner and man with a king-size heart for our city.
Kevin I do Maxwell. A king-size heart.
You do.
Thanks, Don.
I just saw today, in fact, that one of your big programs at Coronado is getting completed. So
yeah,
good for you. Laptops for kids going to college.
Dropped off the computers today. They're all ready to go. People are signing on the 25th. They're going to sign the little contracts to do good, and it's going to be great.
Big heart for Scottsdale, no question. Nobody bigger than Kevin, that's for sure. Although we're getting close with the two guests we have today. Today we get a chance to learn more and to spotlight the good work being done by the Partners for Paiute, one of Scottsdale's most cherished charities. We have two of their board members with us today, Lynn Whitman and Tomas Frodis, and delighted to have you both here to talk about Partners for Paiute, which provides grants and support to the agencies that operate out of the neighborhood center campus there in that neighborhood. We're grateful for the board members like Lynn and Tomas who are active in the community, contributing their time to help out in the neighborhood and other areas in Scottsdale as well. So before we start talking about the group, why don't we get to know a little bit about both of you? And Lynn, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about your background, your career, and how you became involved with Partners for Paiute.
Well, I spent about 25 years in the retail business as a senior executive in finance. I worked for a major department store that was in Arizona and California and all over the West Coast. After I got tired of doing that, I went to a marketing company. I ran an international marketing organization, consortium. After that, I decided to go out on my own and use all of this wonderful knowledge that I'd gained over the years and help people and help myself both with consulting. I got involved with Partners for Paiute because I was a pitch coach for Social Venture Partners. If you're familiar with that, they raise money for all kinds of different nonprofits.
It's a great group. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a terrific group. And I was coaching the Partners for Paiute person who was doing the pitch. So it spoke to me because I grew up in Scottsdale. I went to Scottsdale High.
Right.
And when I was in Scottsdale High, Paiute was a school. And many, many of my classmates went to Paiute. Of course, that's a long time ago. So that's all changed, but that's how I got involved, and I've been involved for the last about 10 years.
That's fantastic. That's a great record. And what was the name of your marketing agency? I wonder if if I know if we've bumped into each other from time to time.
It was called the PeerNet Group, and it wasn't an agency. It was a consortium of other marketing companies. Okay. I ran the consortium.
Nice.
So you're a pitch coach.
Yeah.
So you probably have a lot of thoughts when you watch Shark Tank, I bet.
Well, I also work for ASU. I am a venture mentor for ASU. I am their longest tenured venture mentor.
Is that right?
Wow.
Really? Okay.
So I've worked with hundreds of startup businesses as a venture mentor at ASU. Yeah. And that's great fun.
Yeah, and a great cause there too. Helping students get prepared for the next wave and bringing in investments into our state, and that's right. Fantastic.
And some of these kids I'll tell you, they're change the world ideas. Yeah. It's really, it's the most fun thing I do.
That's amazing. There's amazing things going on at ASU for sure.
Yeah,
and I'm an alum, so
yeah, it's all local grown here, right?
Yep,
it's fantastic. Thomas, I think we'll have the same question for you, but we're going to find a little bit of a different background, I think, with you. But Thomas, what about you?
You will find slightly different background. I actually have only lived here in the Valley for 10 years. Born and raised in Sweden, came over to the U.S. when I was 18 a few years back. And after college, started working for a very large insurance and financial services firm, which I've been with for 24 years as of, I think, last week or something like that. And through different relocations, I landed here in the Valley about 10 years ago. So I was part of Scottsdale Leadership, Class 33, and we did a project called Project Lead It Forward at the Paiute Neighborhood Center. And that's how I got exposed to the work being done there.
That's fantastic.
So, yeah.
It's amazing how Scottsdale Leadership introduces us to so many cool things happening in our city.
That's right. It's what it's supposed to do.
I'm not surprised at all that that's how you got connected with them. That's you're class 33. I'm class 32. Kevin's class 29.
29, yep.
Lynn, did we get you at Scottsdale Leadership?
Nope.
All right, there's still time. So hang on there. Yeah.
Maybe.
Once Leanne hears this on the air, because she'll listen to this, the director of Scottsdale Leadership, she'll probably be giving you a call. So watch out. Anyway, so let's talk about the Partners for Paiute. Lots of changes have gone on there, probably even more than I know about with all the things that have been happening recently. But why don't we talk a little bit about the history of the Partners for Paiute, how it came into existence and how it all got started. And Lynn, why don't we start with you?
Well, Partners for Paiute came into existence because the school was basically useless. It was part of Scottsdale School District, and the demographics of the neighborhood and the size of the neighborhood and everything had changed dramatically. So the school was decommissioned for a time, and the city took it over as a neighborhood services place. And it was obvious that there was a great need for neighborhood services in that general area, particularly in the Holiday Park area. Probably 3 or 4 years after that happened, Partners for Paiute was born to support the agencies there, and not necessarily the individuals, but the people that came to the agencies for help. There were all kinds of different agencies there. Keogh Health was there. Boys and Girls Club was the Scottsdale was there. There were other kinds of agencies that were on campus, and all of them relied on some level of support from what became Partners for Paiute. So there's a nice long history of people that are on the board that you've probably talked to in this podcast, and all kinds of people that you would know their names. They have they've been around for many years in Scottsdale.
It's probably one of the most well-known, or at least cherished, like we said before, charities in Scottsdale, which is with its history like that. I mean, it's long-standing, been doing great work for all these years. So you're probably right that it's probably a who's who on the board.
Absolutely.
So talk a little bit about how it's, Tomas, you and I were talking a little bit before. Talk about how things have changed in recent years. Some of it's due to COVID, but what are the issues that are going on there now that we need to know about?
Yeah, so our mission shifted quite a bit through COVID as we saw the need in the community shift, and we sat down as a board and then really had a heart-to-heart around, where do we take this moving forward? And as you had mentioned earlier, that we funded a lot of grants for the Paiute Neighborhood Center. We don't really do that anymore. We're actually focused on emergency funding for individuals and some agencies. But more individuals with immediate needs in the community. It could be anything from an individual that lost their job due to, beginning was COVID in a retail store and a hotel restaurant, and they received an eviction notice, and we could quickly issue a check to save them from being evicted the next month. Or somebody's car broke down and needed emergency repairs to be able to get to work, and didn't have extra funds to do that. So that's how our mission shifted quite quickly, actually, as we met as a board, and we're able to pursue different avenues of helping out the community.
Was that all a result of COVID, that you moved that quickly because you saw a need and how much things were changing because of COVID? Is that kind of what pivoted, how you had to pivot there? Is that what caused that?
Well, and Lynn, you can chime in as well and clean me up a bit, but we saw that the organizations that used to be at the neighborhood center were no longer there, or they temporarily shut down their services or moved out. So we didn't have the same connection with the center, more about the people that might have used those services in the past. They're still lived in the community or have even moved out of the neighborhood.
There were two things that actually drove that. One of them was what Tomas just said, and the other thing was one of our board members had some funds that he'd gotten that he didn't need. And he said to our social workers at Paiute, find me someone who really needs this kind of money in a hurry, and I will write a check. And we saw that happen, and it was really life-changing. It changed the lives of some of the people that he wrote a check for. So we kind of mulled it around and talked about it for a few months and decided that that was really a better use of our time and our funds, because unlike other kinds of agencies, we can move quickly. Someone needs a check to avoid an eviction on tomorrow. We can do that.
Yeah.
Because we're nimble, we're small, and our board members are all incredibly responsive. So almost everything we do goes in front of the board piece by piece, and they respond in, sometimes it's less than 2 hours.
Wow. That is fast.
Fantastic.
We're not used to people being that fast, Kevin.
Not
right?
at all.
Yeah.
It's, bureaucracy rules usually. But so you guys pivoted, not only because of COVID, but because also the agencies that you served, some of them did some of them go out of business or anything or shut down?
Yeah, some of them did go out of business. Scottsdale Prevention Institute is no longer around, and that was one of the agencies that we served. The Boys and Girls Club had been on the Paiute campus, and they backed off of that. They had built the branch there, and they backed off of that. And when we looked back at the grants, we saw a lot of grants from organizations. And one of the questions on the grant application is, if you don't get this money, will this project continue? 9 times out of 10, the answer was yes. So we were sitting around kind of scratching our heads thinking, why are we doing this?
Good point.
So when we found that what we think is a very large need in Scottsdale, and particularly South Scottsdale, we decided we'd see what we could do to help in that way.
How does the city support your efforts now?
There are partners.
Okay.
Absolutely. None of us are social workers. None of us have that expertise or experience. So we rely on the social workers that are employed by the city in all of their centers, from the senior center to Paiute to Vista, to tell us what needs to happen and to let us know what the situation is. We have a form that we send them, and they respond filling it out, and it's really, there aren't any rules about what you can ask for.
That's good, right?
And we've been able to do some things that no one else, there is not another agency that would have done some of the things that we've done that have been life-changing for our constituency.
And I think that's what makes a huge difference. So the social workers are like conduits. They're out in the communities, they connect with individuals that we don't have the resources to do with the board, the number of board members that we have. But the application is so simple and quick. And they know what we expect on the application, so they'll fill it out, they send it in promptly, and like we talked about, within hours we can have a check issued.
Wow. How often does your board meet?
Every month.
Okay, just once a month?
Yeah, and occasionally there'll be some kind of an event or something that we do that will be in between. We did a fundraising where you and I talked. That was just kind of a thank you, cocktails, 2 hours, talk about who's there and what we're doing and why we're doing it. And so that isn't included in the meeting, but we do a couple of those things.
So how do you respond so quickly? Because it's not required the entire board approval then? Do you have a committee then or something?
No, it requires the majority of the board, and the board responds that quickly.
Wow. Do you have that through email or?
Correct.
We do it on email.
Is that right? Wow.
Yeah, we get the request from the city. An email goes out, and we review the application, if you will. And we all respond, approve, or if there's some questions, some probing questions around, is this truly a need or an emergency? We can ask some follow-up questions that they respond with within hours as well.
Is that right?
So,
you must have a committed board to make that happen like that.
Absolutely.
Right, Don? Isn't that amazing?
Well, I look at some of the boards I'm on, and we don't move quite that fast, which awesome. But I would imagine when you put your board together and people come on board for your board, they know that's one of the responsibilities they have, is that we may have to act fast, because when people are in need, they need immediate help. They can't wait for the next month's board meeting.
Right. So we have that communication. Sometimes it's daily. Sometimes it's more than once a day. Sometimes it's once a week. So everybody's on the lookout for it, and they do something with it right then when they get it.
What I love about hearing about your story is, despite all of the changes and the shifts in the agency lineup that you've had, you haven't lost your focus of dealing with people who need help. And is it mostly people from the Paiute neighborhood? Have you expanded beyond that, or what's the client base for all the folks that you help in the immediate area there?
Well, we don't have a boundary. Our boundary is what the social workers accept.
Okay.
So if we're talking about Scottsdale social workers, and they take someone who used to live in the Holiday Park area and now has moved to Tempe, we'll still take care of that person, because they are relying on our city personnel to help them.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And we've done things with the senior center. We've done things with Vista. We've done things with, of course, with Paiute. And we've gotten to know the social workers in all of those places, so that they know about what we do and how we do it.
So do you have a staff as well? So you have the board that oversees everything. Is there a staff or just the social workers working through the city, or how do you staff that on a kind of a regular with the expertise that you need to make this all happen?
It's the social workers that work for the city.
The city, okay.
Yeah. Our organization has no staff. We have no location. We have no. Our expenses are minimal.
Right. And then, didn't you guys just have an office at the Paiute Center?
No.
Or no, you never did.
No, we never did.
I thought you did. Okay. Wow, that's even.
Yeah, we have no salary expenses. It's all volunteer basis. We do not. We donate to the to the emergency fund, but we do not get paid for any of our time.
I imagine most of your funding must go directly to the clients that you serve, then, without any sort of overhead costs, right? Do you have any overhead costs at all, or?
Oh yeah, we have insurance
And stuff. Okay,
that
right.
kind of
Minor
thing.
stuff. Yeah.
We have some costs associated with some of the events that we do, but it's very minimal. And there's other than that, there's no overhead.
So talk about your budget. Has your budget grown over the years? Has it stayed steady? How have you been able to handle sort of the fundraising piece of your budget to make all this happen?
Well, when COVID came along, our major fundraiser was the annual breakfast, and that attracted somewhere between 100 and 300 people on a good year. And we raised maybe $30,000 in those breakfasts. Plus, we have some other kinds of small revenue generating activities. But interestingly enough, in COVID, we went on a campaign to email our constituency, which is a very loyal and has been around since the 80s. And we raised more money through email than we did for our breakfast.
Did you? Yeah.
Wow. Just for direct contributions.
Yep.
An ask was given and they responded.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. That is. Well, you probably have a great alumni board, like you talked about before. People have been who's who in Scottsdale, so that's a nice place to start, right?
Well, and some of our board members are on their second or third term.
Are they?
Some of them were board members in the 80s. Some of them were board members in the early 2000s, and they've decided they wanted to come back and join us again.
What's the whole issue of the lack of affordable housing in Scottsdale? How does that play out in terms of the clients that you're serving? And is that kind of part of the core part of why you exist? Because people are just having a struggle sometimes just making ends meet with their housing?
Yeah. Before COVID, we even saw the Paiute neighborhood change, and the price of homes changed. I mean, we
going way up, right?
Way up.
Yeah.
There was some affordable housing and apartments there, but again, they were bought up, they converted to condos, and so on. So yeah, the people were driven further and further away from the center, which made it harder for them to get there as well. And I think that was part of our vision and strategy moving forward, that we will not stop serving individuals just because they do not live in the neighborhood.
Gotcha.
That is folded back to the social workers of the city of Scottsdale, and when they referred somebody, we would work with them.
Much of what we have done in the last few months has been rent related, to postpone evictions or to help someone pay an application deposit or something like that. One of the criteria for our grants, our emergency funding, is that it be a one-time thing.
Okay.
We want to see that someone can support themselves after we give them this one-time bundle of money. And we don't give it directly to the people. We give it to the landlord, or we give it to someone who is providing the services for this person.
That's a really important point.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
I was going to say that Holiday Park area is really cool. There's a lot of. Is there Haver homes in there?
Yes,
there's a lot of cool Haver homes in there. And that makes those are really sought after. So that probably drove the price up a lot, huh?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a really eclectic, fun neighborhood over there, mid-century modern.
Yep, there's a lot of really cool stuff that is in that area, and unfortunately, before everybody decided it was a cool place to live, it was populated by the hospitality industry and the people that worked in the hospitality industry, who tend to be many of our customers, constituents, whatever you want to call them, people we help.
We just had a roundtable discussion today with the general manager of the new Caesars Republic Hotel, and it's going to open next February. And they're going to hire 300 people. And one of the questions that somebody posed to him was, well, where are we going to find the workers? Because they're not living in Scottsdale. You can't afford to, not in that industry. So that's a challenge right now that I think not just the new Caesars Hotel, but just about every major employer in Scottsdale right now is finding it difficult to find employees who are making average wages because they can't afford to live here.
And that's been a problem for a while, and it's going to continue to be a problem until we have some kind of affordable housing plan in place.
That's exactly right. And right now, we don't have anything in sight as far as affordable housing goes, at least in the city of Scottsdale. And it's actually a problem across the whole entire state, but it's particularly acute here in Scottsdale.
Yeah.
So you guys, do you help clients? Is it a one-time offer to help them, or do you have people who come? Because it sounds like if it's rent, it may be a reoccurring issue.
If it's rent and it's a reoccurring issue, we need some kind of a plan that they can continue to pay their rent after we give them this one piece. And many times what that is they're in line for the Section 8 housing and they just it hasn't come through yet. Or they're moving and they need an application fee for a new place because the old one was too expensive. So we look at those things very carefully because we don't want to set somebody up for, okay, I paid it this month, but where am I going to get it next month?
So you look for people who have jobs and can sustain themselves and just need a little bit of a little bit of help just to get over a tough time.
Yeah, maybe they just started their job.
The intent is to pay once.
Yeah.
To just push them over the hill, for them to see the light, to get a motivation to keep going. Because a lot of our clients or constituents, the people we help, they're so down.
Yeah.
So just getting that one check to even help pay for internet so they can apply for jobs. They have to choose between paying for the internet, paying some of the rent, paying for their AC bill. So there's so many different areas when it comes to their expenses that they have to choose, or food for their children. So just getting that check the one time so they can catch up and get over the hill.
Perfect.
And feel good about it.
And preventing homelessness. Kevin and I are both involved with Family Promise. And we have a lot of the same values. What we want to do is we want to get people, not so they can depend on us forever, but just to give them that little helping hand so they get back on their feet and get to sustainable living again. But part of the homeless problem we're having now, which is becoming bigger everywhere, is just, people on the edge of just needing maybe one or two little pieces of help to kind of sustain themselves and stay in their house or their apartment, whatever it might be, and stay free from homelessness.
Are you familiar with the Brick by Brick program?
That's a city program, right?
Yes.
Yeah, why don't you talk about that a little bit? Yeah.
But the reason it's a city program is because Partners for Paiute bought the machine.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Oh, really?
That's good to know. Yeah.
We bought the first machine, and we bought it with the hopes that it would be something that would be used in the neighborhood, and it's turned out much better than that because what they're doing with Brick by Brick is giving the people that are working that machine, which are mostly homeless men that are in the area, enough money to maybe live in one of the tiny homes. And I believe that they're going to be in a tiny home contest with the Brick by Brick stuff that they're building now.
Yeah.
What kind of machine did you guys buy?
It's an Italian-made, handmade machine that compresses earth and a little bit of concrete into bricks that are, Thomas, you know the size of the bricks.
I'm not sure if they're 12 by 12 or 16 by 16.
Okay. So it makes building materials for homes.
Yes.
Wow, that's pretty neat. And where's that being used at? So the city's using it, the city program.
It's a city program, and it's in a warehouse that's in front of the police station that's on McKellips.
Okay.
Oh, really?
I would love to see more contractors or local flippers that use to work on those mid-century modern homes in that neighborhood.
Right.
Buy some materials from them because they're really cool looking bricks.
Really?
That'd be the whole idea, is to sell it to all the folks who are building stuff, right?
And I think they just got a second machine,
That's right?
So they doubled their capacity of production, could hire more people. So pretty cool program.
I love hearing about programs like that.
Yeah,
they're meaningful.
Cool.
They make a difference.
So the machine doesn't travel to the location, does it? They have one location, they make the bricks there, then okay.
Yeah, the machine would fill up this room.
I bet.
And it's a manual machine. It's all hand operated.
Is that right?
Yeah.
No, it keeps homeless people employed, gives a little money in their pocket, let them get back to a normal life for them too. I think it's fantastic. Yeah. So what are some of the challenges that you both see for the organization moving forward? What are the kinds of things you're preparing to continue to mount through challenges that will you're going to be facing down the road?
I would say we will not stop,
right,
no matter what type of challenges are thrown at us, there's always a challenge of raising enough funds to help all the people that come our way. We do not ever want to turn anybody away, which we haven't had to do yet.
Great.
But as the need continues to rise in the area, you never know.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say funding, even though we're not low on funds yet, I'm just guessing if the need continues, we will need to fundraise more.
Keep the money coming in, right?
level. Yeah.
Yeah. So how can members of the community help you? What do you need? Do you need volunteers? Do you have a volunteer program? Do you need more board members? And of course, you need more money, so we can talk about that. But how can members of the community support what you're doing?
Well, we don't have a volunteer program. However, there are a couple of things in the work with the city, and one of them is the Welcome Home program that you may be familiar with. We're also looking at partnering with organizations like Neighbors Helping Neighbors. So that will be an avenue for us to get some kinds of volunteer support. We haven't ever done that before. The volunteers are the board members, and they work hard and they do a lot of things, but it would be nice to be able to engage more of the community in some of the things that we're doing. And I think we're looking for ways to do that right now.
How can people get connected with you?
Our website
Okay.
is partnersforpaiute.org.
Okay.
And there's a box where you can subscribe to our newsletter. And our newsletter usually talks a little bit about the people that are on the board, and it tells a good story about somebody we've helped and some other kind of something interesting for the community. So we try to do 3 articles. We put it out about once a quarter.
Okay.
That's great.
And I would love to maybe just hear a quick story from both of you, maybe a personal story of an experience you had helping somebody, and what touched you the most. What do you remember most about perhaps one of those experiences?
Well, one story, I think it comes back over and over again in different versions, is when women have to leave the homes because they've been in an abusive relationship. So they have to leave or escape or hide with children, small children, and need to get housing fast, need to get an apartment furnished and get everything within it to be able to live safely with their children. I think that is something that really touches my heart, and it's really about helping individuals. So I think that's, if I had to pick one, that's one that keeps coming back. There's others, but that's a big one.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. Lynn?
Well, just one thing to add to what Tomas just said is that we've also partnered with the Boys and Girls Club thrift store that's on Scottsdale Road to help furnish those one-time apartments for somebody who had to bail out quick.
Oh, that's great.
But the one thing that I think of frequently, I'm a dog lover, and we had a senior who was in a wheelchair. She lived in a subsidized apartment, and she had a small dog that was her main companion. This dog was her life, and it was sick, and she couldn't afford a vet bill.
Oh.
So we paid her vet bills.
Nice.
And we did it twice because the first time we knew they weren't done.
Right.
And so we paid them twice. And there isn't another agency that would pay vet bills.
That's amazing.
That's fantastic news right there.
Love it, don't you?
Yeah, so that's great. I'm glad to hear you guys are considering partnering with Neighbors Helping Neighbors. We had Larry Hewitt on from that organization, 3 or 4 months ago?
Yeah.
And I was just thinking about that you guys have, not similar missions, but you guys are both really organically based board who are very quick acting and able to have a large impact with a very small footprint.
And the Welcome Home program that the city's looking at, there's a meeting that's coming up, I believe, next week about it, involves the communities of faith as well. So,
good.
Wow.
So it will I'm going to be involved through the Human Services Group and communities of faith and Neighbors Helping Neighbors and all of those kind of people that are on the ground helping people with meeting codes and those kinds of things. I don't know all the details yet, but it's an exciting program that's actually something that was done before, and they've kind of reinvented it.
Nice.
And who do you work with in the city? You work with the city, the Community Services Department, or
Human Services.
Human Services. Okay. And who are the folks over there that you engage with normally? Do we know them?
Well, Greg Bestian is somebody who I talk to all the time. Greg and I are good friends.
Yep.
And the social workers that are at Paiute, Rosita Pinedo is the senior social worker there, and she's just an amazing person.
Yeah.
And
Well, I love the way that you're talking about collaborating with other groups. That's when magical things happen, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. Fantastic. Kevin, any other questions for?
No, thank you so much for what you guys are doing. This is another example of a great organization in Scottsdale. This one's a little bit well known. I think a lot of people know what Partners for Paiute is. So we're not shedding light on it, something that is completely in the dark, but just another example of somebody doing great work, having a huge impact without having a huge building and lots of overhead. They're actually hit the ground running, and actually, I think it's wonderful.
Agree, absolutely, and just glad to have a chance to shine the spotlight on what you both are doing in terms of what your organization is doing as well. So fantastic stuff. Kevin, you have a Scottsdale Analytics this week.
Don, yes, I do actually, and it's been something I've been thinking about all day. It's not exactly Scottsdale based, but I think you'll get a kick out of it. Don, you used to be at the Phoenix at the Business Journal, were you not?
I was. Yes.
How many years?
About 14.
And did you work downtown?
I did.
In a big building?
I did.
Did you wear a suit every day?
Most often.
I
yeah,
bet.
right.
Was your office at the top floor?
It wasn't quite at the top. We didn't pay enough rent to get to the top floor.
The point is, you were in an elevator probably a lot, right?
Oh yeah.
I have some statistics about elevator riding that I cannot get out of my head. All right, check this out. I want to see what you think about this. As somebody who's probably taken thousands of elevator trips in your life.
Oh yeah.
Okay, here's a stat somebody asked. A survey. Have you ever hit the button to close an elevator's doors because you saw somebody who was trying to get on and you wanted to leave without them? And the answers are either yes, no, or not sure. How would you respond to that?
Do you want me to be truthful?
Yes, absolutely. Because I know
yes.
you will be.
Of course it's yes.
See, that's okay. Let's just ask real quick. Let's just ask Thomas and Lynn. What do you think?
Yes.
Yes, Lynn? Lynn's going to be a no.
Yes.
Lynn's a yes, too. So we're all four. We're unanimous. I'm a yes.
We're just being honest.
So here's the stats, and I don't know who they pulled on this because yes is only 31%.
Oh,
no is
No way.
61%.
No way.
And I don't even how you can be a not sure. How can you not be sure? But whatever. It's 8% are not sure. This is just blowing. I've been thinking about this all day long. How can that not be 80, 90, 95%?
The people aren't being honest.
You think what it is? You think that's what it is? Not being honest?
I've seen people see me come in and close the door.
Okay, well, then that leads me to my next question number 2 then. Question number 2, Don, is do you think that someone has ever hit the button to close an elevator's doors because they saw you were trying to get on the elevator and wanted to leave without you?
Yes.
Same question. Yes, no, or not sure? Yes?
Of
Probably
course.
yes.
Yes. See, again, we're all 100% committed here, 100% in this group. This one says 30, just a little bit higher, 36% say yes,
God.
and 44% say no.
Come on.
That's got to be, I think you hit on the head, Don. People not being honest, right?
They're just not. Yeah. I mean, it's the human nature is what we do, you know? I mean, that's what we are.
I just couldn't get over that. I'm like, that is so wrong. I don't know who took that poll or where they got the information from, where the sample size was. That's just got to be wrong.
Well, speaking of elevators, and I'll ask this to the group too, because it's happened to me. But my floor at the Business Journal back in the day when we were at the bank tower downtown was floor number 23. So I was on the elevator a lot. Stairs weren't an option. More than once, twice that I can remember, stuck in the elevator.
How long?
It was never more than an hour.
More than an
It was
hour?
never more than an hour. It was usually, I think the first time was about 20 minutes. Second time was about maybe 30
Really?
before they get around to figuring out what's going on.
Do you start getting nervous at about the 15-minute mark and
I
stuff?
start getting nervous at the 1 minute mark.
All right.
You know, as soon as it stops, I get nervous. But then the question that we should do questions around this. Have you ever been stuck in an elevator with somebody you can't stand or that somebody you really like? You can
I
go
don't
in
think I've
many
ever been
different ways.
stuck on an elevator, but if it hasn't been like for less than a minute.
Hey, I'm just glad not to be on elevators anymore.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with them. It used to drive us crazy that you'd be in the bank towers. This probably still happens today when they have fire drills because they do that.
Yeah.
You can't take the elevator.
Mm-mm.
So if you have a fire drill and you're in the 34th floor, guess what? You're walking down the stairs
Yeah.
the entire way and back up if you need to as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, good stats.
Yeah, it's funny. Not a Scottsdale stat, but something interesting to talk about. It's been bugging me all day long. So I'm glad you guys confirmed my thought that would be incorrect.
Maybe that's why our city council is having such a tough time with building tall buildings in Scottsdale.
They don't want,
They don't want elevators.
They don't want anybody to close the door on them.
I got a couple ideas about that. Trust me.
Yep.
Good stuff, Kevin. Thank you. And thanks again to Lynn and Thomas today for their hard work for a great cause. And thanks to all of you for listening. We look forward to being back with you again for our next edition of Today and Tomorrow in Scottsdale.